Hi guys, so that's Skoda Superb 2016 1.6 TDI with DSG, the dual dry clutch gearbox. And I've had this car for slightly over 2 years. And when I got it, it had 15,000 miles more or less, and now it has 100, just around 100,000. I just hit 100,000 last week. So this is just like a quick walkthrough around the car. It's not that clean. It's actually used for work all the time, but you can see it's fairly spacious inside. I'm nearly 6'4" and I actually fit into it. No problem at all at the back, so this is not a bad thing. I must say this is the most basic version. I mean, you can't get any cheaper Superb than this one, and I mean that. There is no parking sensors, there is no cruise control. Like, I mean, this is poor man's edition. I mean, to show you how poor it is, there is not even an armrest. I'm not even joking. Guys, there is no armrest here. This is how poor it is. The actual material is alright. I mean, it's quite nice to touch. Unfortunately, you know, whatever you're gonna spill, even if it's like water, you know, sometimes it will leave like marks on it. I'm pretty sure you can clean it without any problem, but I couldn't be bothered. So, if we have a look at all these buttons, they're empty for a reason. This is the most basic edition of this car. As you can tell, also the LCD, the more expensive versions, or like kind of more functional cars, would have LCD which would fill this frame up until here. So this one, you can actually tell by looking at this car what version it is. Well, what else? So something interesting about this car is it actually has cooled air conditioning within the glove box. Yet there is no cruise control or parking sensors. So yeah, you could actually keep your, I don't know, water or beer or bottle of vodka for your passengers cold, but you will at the same time scratch your car or just have to keep your foot on accelerator pedal all the time. So that's just like a quick walkthrough. So I must say, unfortunately, these seats, and I think I can say that I did, you know, more or less 85,000 miles in it, which would be like within a space of 2 years, slightly over 2 years. So I can say something about how the car drives, and you know, it's alright. I mean, it's not probably overly comfortable, but it's okay. Like, I must say, for me, the biggest challenge was getting used to the seats. That version of the seat is not the most comfortable. Even the next level up has kind of an extension for you know, the bottom, the other side of your knees, and it's actually a really helpful thing. Especially I think if you're a bit taller. But generally speaking, it's okay. I'll just show you how the engine looks like as well. It's nothing special. At the end of the day, 120 brake horsepower. What can you expect? No 260 unachievable. Oh, it's like 11 seconds or something. It feels actually quite long. So this is the way it looks like. For some reason, since I got the car, basically it is consuming small amount of oil. It's nothing major, but I change oil every 10,000 miles, and I would have to put probably around maybe 200, 300 milliliters of oil between changes. And bear in mind, I'm not doing like high speed basically runs. Most of my driving is around city and maybe like motorway driving, but I would say in this car, this is like a workhorse. I would be doing like 75, 70 miles per hour. Another interesting thing is, in many modern cars, it's very difficult to change the bulbs in headlights. In this one, it's actually extremely easy. I might just record like another video for like people who are useless with mechanics as I am, and just show how to do it. Like in some cars, it is actually really complicated. You have to remove the front bumper or just like do some really tricks, and you wish your hand was like half the size because otherwise it doesn't fit. In this one, this is not an issue. It actually works great. I also noticed that, unfortunately, for some reason, sometimes a small amount of coolant is kind of getting somewhere. The car was never overheated. For some reason, it's just consuming like small amount of coolant. It's been never bothering me. It's been happening since I got the car. The car still had manufacturer's warranty. I referred that, basically I reported that to Skoda many times. In their opinion, everything's alright, so the car still drives, more or less. So that's about it. Nothing exciting here. Oh, so wheels look extremely dirty, because actually they're not that dirty. I know they seem very dirty, but they're not that dirty. I applied in a very amateur way Plasti Dip into them. So unfortunately, because I've never painted a thing in my life properly, they look as they look. It's not perfect, to put it this way. I think I still have some pictures of how these wheels look like before I did that miracle job on them. So I may just actually upload them at some point and just show you how it works. So guys, now we're gonna just go for a short drive. I have to get something sorted, and I'll just show you basically how the car drives like. I'll just turn on my amazing dashcam. By the way, it's a very good dashcam, which cost me like 50 quid or something. So I wouldn't expect Lamborghini acceleration from this car. As I mentioned before, it's like 0 to 60 in probably around 11 seconds. And just for the crack, if someone is considering this car, I'll actually show the acceleration 0 to 60. And I'll be honest with you, because I've had this car for some time, I kind of got used to the way how it accelerates, and I know it's slow, so I have to kind of limit myself. I have experiences from many different cars. I think I've had, within last, I don't know, like 10 years, I've had probably 10, 11 different cars that I've that I've driven, and not to mention, of course, like cars of other people, but this is actually one of the slowest cars I've had in my life. But it's okay. I must say DSG up to maybe, I would say 45 miles per hour, maybe 50 miles per hour. It works okay. It's really smooth once you are coming off the standstill. So basically, one thing I noticed about DSG in general, maybe we can talk about it, is that DSG, unfortunately, and I would like to refer to this particular DSG because I know there are, of course, many different versions of DSG, but DQ200, so dry dual clutch DSG, which is also used in some of the most basic Audi models like S-Tronic. It's not overly smooth. From if you're stuck in the traffic, let's imagine there is a big traffic jam and it's start and stop driving. This is not the smoothest car on earth. I would actually say it's quite jerking while you're moving in the traffic. It's almost like, you know, you are just like an inexperienced driver, or you're learning to drive and you don't really know how to operate the clutch, because it's you have to kind of feel the car, you have to drive it for some time to get used to it. Whilst you're moving, it's actually really smooth. The gearbox is really fast for what it is. I mean, it's not a performance car, of course, for obvious reasons. It is a basic from A to B commuter, right? So I must say the weather is not the best now for driving in general, but that's what happens a lot in this country. I'm originally from Poland, but I'm based in Belfast, Northern Ireland. As we know, this place is known for the rain and the miserable weather, around 365 days a year, sometimes 366. But so as you can see over here, you've got an indication what gear it is on at the moment. So we are doing 35 miles per hour and we are on a 5th gear. This is the 7-speed gearbox. So we'll just try not to hit anything. Okay, that's perfecto. There is a speed camera on the right hand side, but it doesn't affect us. In this car, getting a speeding ticket, you have to have like some serious skill. This is like really difficult, I suppose. Unless you're going downhill maybe from like big mountain. So also something like a random thought, cabin noise. At low speed it's alright. I would say it's not the quietest car in the world. Although I must admit, on the motorway speed, in my opinion, these cars are quite loud inside of the cabin. If we compare it to many other cars, I must say it's not that great. The previous car I've used for work was Vauxhall Insignia, and Insignia, in my opinion, was a bit quieter inside. If we are talking about, excuse me, the actual noise from the environment, from the background. On the other hand, the plastics inside Superb seem a bit better than in Vauxhall Insignia. So like what I usually do, if I get into the car, I just kind of try to push everything and see what's going on. But in this one, it's actually okay. I must say it is actually really cool. So one of the colleagues quite recently got a replacement car, like a courtesy car, which is Mercedes E-Class from 2017, and of course, like, the dashboard looks amazing. It's actually a really nice car. Of course, different class to Superb. But one thing we noticed, and it's a bit bizarre, is when you're touching the actual dashboard, or like any of this panel, like, you can actually hear that noise in here. But over there, like, basically everything in here it's making that noise. Where here in Superb, this actually part is really stable. Again, like a random thought, in general it doesn't affect, you know, kind of your experience that much. But I would say, and if I can be honest, I'd rather sit in E-Class which is maybe making small noises rather than this car, of course. That's another story. Yeah, so now we are moving in traffic. It's alright. I noticed, because just like a background to the story, this car has now 100,000 miles, but around, I would say 50,000 miles just before the warranty expired, this DSG gearbox had undergone some kind of major repair, so the whole dual clutch pack had to be replaced. Now I've done around 40,000 miles on it, and basically so far it works absolutely fine. And I mean, in the actual clutch pack, because the gearbox itself is giving me a bit of bother to this day. So maybe my expectations are just higher than because I have kind of comparison of different cars, and it just kind of annoys me. But that's kind of like the story for another topic. So I just noticed every now and again it wouldn't engage the gear so quickly. So to give you an example, like, let's imagine we are trying to make a U-turn, and we'll just go to the right side. And when we put the reverse, so we stopped, we put the reverse, we reverse a bit, and then we want to, you know, we're just moving the lever to drive, and we're trying to move. Sometimes, and more often than not, it will not engage the gear as quickly as we would expect it to. Like in manual gearbox, for example, you know, it does it straight away. Like, I mean, it's just like, you just put it into the gear is engaged because it's kind of like mechanical, right? So here it's not obvious. And it is sometimes annoying, because I know it may not make a, you know, huge difference, that's like half second or like maybe 1 second, but it actually does in a way, because, you know, quite often you're kind of blocking someone else, or like you just feel awkward. You're like, I just don't want to be annoyance to someone else, but there's nothing you can do about it. Also, in conventional gearboxes, that's not the problem, right? Because unless there is some problem with maybe, you know, some electronics which is still, you know, controlling the gearbox, but I must say I haven't experienced that to the same extent as in this car. Yeah, it's actually, it's alright now. Right, we have to have a look on the right. Yeah, I'll make it. That's one thing I like about this car, despite there is a lot of negative things I can say about it. I really like the way the steering wheel looks like. It's kind of sporty. You know, in a car like this, like the previous Superb, so the model which was produced up until 2015, so this one is 2016. It's kind of a year later after this model was released. That steering wheel with like a 4-spoke steering wheel wasn't, I don't know, like I just didn't like the look of it. The 3-spoke, I know it's just like kind of small things, but it looks, in my opinion, it looks okay. It's almost like, you know, it's almost like straight, at the bottom, not exactly the same as in like VRS or some I don't know, like Sportline Skoda Superb, but it is, I must say, it is alright. So in terms of like other things, you've got lighting here, and another few small, so another lighting here. We've got just like glove, basically this is like a glove box for sunglasses. I broke it, I have to fix it soon. One very good feature about it is that you can actually turn the light only for passengers at the back, which is quite useful for like private hire, or I don't know, if you're maybe driving around and there are people around you who, you know, there are some people at the back sitting, they want to read something or maybe check something. You can just turn it on only for rear passengers. I know it's nothing like amazing in general, considering how kind of advanced cars are nowadays, but it is like a small feature which I would say it's quite useful. As much as well as you can see those hooks. We've got one here on this side and we've got another one on the other side. This is again a small thing. I suppose it doesn't really cost much for manufacturer to produce these, but it's actually like kind of someone is thinking about it. Not in this car, to give you an example of something like these hooks, but in more expensive Skodas Superbs, when you open up the doors, as far as I remember, it's on passenger and driver's doors. You've got umbrella. So it sounds like Bentley, right? You've got a Rolls-Royce, I think it's in Bentley, but you've got basically umbrella. Which is, I mean, definitely a good thing for this climate. And I actually wish Skoda would think about it even more, and they would be like, okay, so all Skodas in kind of which gonna be sold in UK, they will get an umbrella, because it's gonna be needed for this country. Unfortunately, no one really, I think they just wanted to make more money, and they wouldn't do that. So what else we've got? As you can tell, I don't have automatic headlights on. There is that option doesn't exist in this particular version of the car. So bear in mind, this is Skoda Superb S version, and S doesn't stand for sport, S stands for super poor standard edition. So as I said many times before, and I guess you might be bored with it, this is a really extremely basic version of this car. What else? So we've got glove box here, which is quite big. I just filled it with a lot of crap, so you can tell it's just like there's just too much stuff inside. And what we've got next? We're stuck on the traffic. These traffic lights take ages to change, and they're very short, so we may end up sitting here for another few minutes.